Hey folks, I've been promising for a while that I wanted to make a video that showed you kind of how to use GeoGebra, and I'm going to do that now. This is a screencast actually. I'm working on my computer, but I put a webcam on so you can see me. I've also got a second webcam, which for other classes I normally have it pointing at a calculator, but for you guys we'll take some notes in that area. Okay. So the first thing is just about how to log into GeoGebra. Sometimes this is quite confusing. I probably should set a bookmark, but I haven't got one, so I usually just Google search it and then click on it. But my first note is make sure you use the one that's sort of in purple there, the GeoGebra Classic. That's, in my experience, that's the sort of best one to deal with. And that's what I'll be showing you about, so by all means, it'll make it easier if we're on the right thing. So the layout of the window when we're doing graphing, oh, wow, look, there's a GeoGebra tutorial. You could go look at that, but the layout of the window has basically three elements. There's a toolbar along the top, and at any point one of these tools is active. Right now the tool that's active is the one that looks like a cursor. You see, that's what you use for moving objects around, but we could move the graphics view around for this. Most of the other things would require us to have something already built before we could talk about it. So that's one thing, the toolbar at the top. The main menu is at the far right side of that toolbar. I'm going to talk about the main menu in a sec. The other pieces are called the algebra view here and the graphics view here. And both of those have their own submenus. They're hidden by default, but you can turn them on and see stuff that's probably hard to understand right now. And in both cases there's things that can be, and that you click them on and off like that. All right. The main menu is probably a good place to start. Now it turns out, oh, I probably should have set this up differently. I'm logged in currently. You can tell that because my name is down there. But if I sign out, and should I reload? If I sign out and do this fresh, you don't see my name at the bottom, rather you see a sign in spot. So I have found when I've used this before with Google, it saves what's actually called your screen name into the password thing, and that's not what we want. Oops. You want the email that you signed up with. I used my Southern email address when I signed up, and then put in your password. I put a fairly low stakes password in there because this isn't really something that I think hackers are interested in getting at. And okay, but now we're signed in, and again the screen name appears. I'm in here as Joe Fields. It never should divulge what your email address is, because that would allow somebody to get into your account. Well, only assuming they knew your email. They were also into your email account. That would be weird. Anyway, this main menu has subsections to it. It's not. It's what's known as a dynamic menu. Right now the file menu is open, so you can create a new file, you can open an existing one, do all these other things. Let me point out, if you click on one of the other sort of heading areas, the things that are available to you are things appropriate for that. So I clicked on edit and I've got undo and redo and copy and paste, things like that. There's also perspectives. That's a way to switch from the thing we started with, but we started with the graphing window, so that's fine. View is a useful one. It tells you what windows are currently open. Right now we have an algebra view, see how that check is on that, and we have a graphics view. So we've got a place where there's an XY coordinate system. If I turn one of those off, then the whole view is taken up with, well, graphics now. Let me put it back on, because I usually like to have this where I've got the algebra view of things and the geometry view of things, and that's actually where the tool gets its name. GeoGebra is because it combines geometry and algebra. All right, so since I'm logged in, I have access under the File menu to things that I've previously saved. There's a bunch of them, and I think I've shown you some of these things before. The one I would like to show briefly is this one called Fish. I have to edit it. Fish is something I did quite a while ago. Oops. And that was a little bit strange. It just moved on me. Well, let me use this as a teachable moment. There's two ways to move things. There's this button that says move, and then there's this button that says move graphics view. If you move the graphics view, that's what you want to do if you're sort of not liking the way you see things currently and you want to look at a different portion of it. That's a very different thing from moving one of the objects, because that'll be a change that's relative to the other things. So I might be able to grab this image and move it so that it lines up better with the artwork or the lines that I stuck on top of it. And actually, those things in there are one of the tile systems we might use. Now, this fish picture has a particularly complicated geometry underlying it. It's a geometry that has the glide reflection symmetries. Notice, for instance, I'm indicating one of the fish. He's got kind of a pointy nose, and he's got a spade-type tail, and he's in gray. Well, if I slide him vertically and also flip him over, I get this other spiky-nosed, spade-tailed gray fish. Yeah, so there's a glide reflection, both translating and reflecting to see one fish turned into the other. Similar things with the other fishes. There's actually, if you look carefully, you'll notice there's two different sorts of fish here. There's ones that have kind of a broad nose and what's known as a mermaid tail, and there's these ones, like I originally pointed out, that have a skinny nose and a spade tail. But these fish fit together neatly in a pattern that, well, but it's dependent on that glide reflection. Like I said, that's a little complicated. So let's leave this one and look at a different image that I had played with for a while ago. This one is called Kitty. Sure, I'll save the changes I made to the fish. Now it's saving, it's doing stuff right now. It doesn't seem like it. It's like you feel like the screen is frozen. Just be patient. It's saving that one. Now it's loading the new one. There it is. There's my kitties. Do you see how it looks like a kitty? Actually, the kitties don't have ears, but it looks like an earless kitty because this is its tail. And the tail of one kitty fits into the tail of an upside-down kitty. Or maybe they're lying down and their tails are webbed. Anyway. But this is the sort of scheme that we're after, a set of tiles that can be used to cover the entire plane and that look like something, like in this case a cat, or more or less like a cat. We could probably make improvements to the layout to make it look more like a cat, but well, maybe that's not the best one to go with either. Tell you what, let's start a new one. I really don't want that picture thing. Now I've started a new one, and for some reason the geometry window menu is open. Well, maybe it's as good time as any to show you what's in that geometry menu window. The first thing is something that will turn the axes on or off. So if you want to see the XY axes, that's great. I don't think we do for this. There's also a grid. You can even make the grid be fancy other things, like this grid of triangles. That might actually be useful if we were doing a triangular, a tiling based on triangles. This is a neat thing. You can get the points to automatically snap to the grid. So that's sort of a fun option. If I have this grid on and I set the tool to the point constructor, my points will, well, if I'm close to one of these grid points, it'll go right to it. You don't have to be that close. You see how I was just a little off, and it still made a point on there. Now, I don't want any of those points, so let's just select them and delete them. Trying to think of, well, I don't really want this grid. Let's do the simplest example, which is that square kind of grid, except let's leave it turned off because we don't need it. I'm going to draw a square. Now, how do I get GeoGebra to draw a square for me? Ooh, maybe I want to do a rectangle, not a square. I'm trying to think about this. Let's go with a square. Okay, so you see this tool that looks like a triangle? That's the polygon tool. The triangle is the sort of simplest polygon. You can also draw regular polygons, and a square is a regular polygon with 4 corners. How does that work? You pick one point, you pick a second point, and then you tell it how many corners. And it's going to make a square that has the one we started with, AB, as its side. Now, watch how you can move some of these things, like B, I can slide it over here, A, I can slide it over here, and the other guys just move to make sure that you have a square. If I try to move them, it doesn't work. Those points are constructed. So A and B are primary, these guys are known as auxiliary objects. Yeah, so okay, I've got a square. Let's set up a tiling based on that square. The easiest way to do that would be to define a transformation. Sorry, I hit the wrong tool. It's the third one in from the right side. To translate by a vector. Well, before I do that, I'm going to need to have a vector. So that's available to us under this menu, this sub tool that has lines and segments and other things. A vector is kind of a line, except it's got a direction associated with it. So the vector from A to D gets drawn as an arrow. Right? The vector from A to B is that one. We could also draw vectors that go the other directions. It'll actually be handy to have all of these around. So U and I can't even see what that says. Is it A? A. Those go in opposite directions, but they sort of parallel to one another. What is technically known as anti-parallel. Right. So now I can do translations by vectors. I can take this polygon and translate it by that vector, and I get a new polygon that looks like that. Or I can take this original polygon and translate it downward, and I get a new one there. We can take that one and translate it further to the right, and it didn't go anywhere. What happened? I meant this one translated by that vector. Yeah, it's not working. I think I must somehow have... Here, let's translate it to the left. Let's see if that works. Okay, that worked. Translate it to the right. There we go. I think I didn't click directly on the thing we're after. Anyway, that's how you propagate your tiles once you've chosen what your tiles are like. Well, I will say this is sometimes a little buggy. I've just done a bunch of things that I didn't really want to do. I was just giving examples. Or you may find that you screw something up and you want to undo it. The buttons I'm indicating up here in the upper right, they're right next to the main menu, give you ways for editing it's called an undo redo stack. So you can get rid of things that you've created. And if you decide, oh, I went too far, you can put more of them back in. But I really didn't mean to undo that. That, I have noticed occasionally that gets a little glitchy, that you can undo something and it doesn't really undo the thing you were after. Sometimes it undoes multiple things at once, and it can be annoying. So try not to rely on it, but be as careful as you can. If you do some mistake, particularly deleting something that you didn't want to delete, try an immediate undo to get yourself back. All right, so it's time to create a tile, and let's do that using the polyline tool. Now this is another thing that's under the lines, the same place where vectors were. It's called polyline. I like to go from, let's say, A to B. So I'll click on A, and then I'll make a bunch of funny looking stuff. finally ending at B, and I'm not done until I come back and click on A. Now I've got a polyline that goes from A to B, but you see that you had to end it with clicking on the place you started. And I'm going to make that polyline copied over here on the back side of my tile. So that's the same translate by vector tool I showed before. Grab that thing, translate it by that vector, and there it is over here. These guys are all now subordinate objects. If I grab the move things tools, I can move this one and the other guy moves with it. I was sort of thinking I had something that looked a little bit like a witch's face, but now it's not looking like that. Maybe she needs to not be smiling to make her look more witchy. Oh, now it looks like the Grinch. Yeah. Oh, cool. I think I see the beginning of an image. This is the face of the Grinch. Let me see if I can make him have like a hat or something. So let's grab another polyline and try to put a hat. I think it somehow missed my click, and I'm annoyed now. I'm just going to end it, try to end it, yeah, and then delete that thing that I just made. Let's do an undo. Try this again. Polyline, going from A to this other side. Let's do one more. And then back to A to end it. Yeah, kind of looks like the Grinch has a funny, weird thing on the back of his neck, but I could picture the Grinch having such a funny, weird thing. I don't know. And so let's do the same deal of making a translation version of that polyline. So I'm going to take the polyline. Notice you need to click on the line part, not on one of the points that's a part of it, and translate it by this vector to make it go downward. Now it's appeared over there. Wow, that looks like a Grinch head to me. I'm so excited. We could maybe try to adjust things a little bit so that it looks more like the final thing we're after. Yeah. I think I'm going to live with it. That's pretty good. So that'll be our tile. Now to make it an actual tile of that, we'll select the polygon tool and basically just click right on around through each one of these points until you've made the circuit, and then you'll have a single thing which was built out of all these pieces that we just created. Sorry, this is dull watching me do this. Oh, I missed one. When we get back to where we started, it finishes. And here's where a little knowledge about how to use GeoGebra's interface will help you. There's now a bunch of stuff on here that I kind of don't want to see. I do want to be able to move the elements, right? I might want to make his frown more pronounced. I don't know. I might want to make his eye sockets a little deeper, or something like that. But and I won't be able to move those things if they're hidden. I won't be able to select them. But I do probably want to not see a lot of the stuff that's on here. So let me open up the menu for this algebra view, and we'll click on this leftmost icon. It's got help text on it that says sort by. We're going to sort it by object type. And you'll see there are a bunch of points. You can expand or contract the list of all the points. There's a bunch of polylines. Actually, we could probably get rid of them, or at least turn them off just one by one. There's only that many of them, right? So that's it for polyline. I just don't see them anymore. There's one polygon. Why is there two polygons? Oh, this one we really don't even want, so I'm just going to delete that guy. I think I just deleted the wrong one. Undo. Phew. How did that happen that I deleted? Oh, I see what this is. This is the square we started with. If I delete the square, then anything that was built off of the square will get killed too. So we don't want to delete that, but we do want to not see it anymore. I'm sorry, I'm having trouble with the interface myself. Clicking on that button next to it turns it either on, visible, or off, invisible. We want it invisible. The main reason, though, I'm showing you this thing is when we built that polygon that was the whole tile, all this junk appeared on the screen. It's every line segment between every point got created and got labeled. So you see there's a whole bunch of segments here, and we're under the segment submenu. Lots of them. I don't want to see any of them. I'd like to be able to turn them all off at once, and this you can do by clicking on this area to the right of where it says segment. That selects all of them. See how they're all highlighted in gray? And we'll come over to the geometry view and hit the gear here. You don't want to see them, so I'm going to turn them all off. Maybe I do want to see them, but I don't want to see their labels. So some of them had their labels visible and others didn't. So right now I've turned all the labels on, but then you can turn them all off. Great. So now the labels are not visible, and that looks a little bit better. I kind of also maybe don't want to see the well, I'm going to keep the vectors around for a minute, but I kind of don't want to see the labels on all these points either. Maybe I'll keep the points, but I don't need to see their labels. So open up the points category, click to the right of the word point, and notice how it selected everybody. And we can turn their, well, this is weird. Yeah, I turned their labels off. Okay. So that's the rough idea. I've now got a tile. It is this polygon that we, it's also nice to be able to collapse these things because you can just see the things you care about. Polygon number 2 is the one we're interested in, and I can use it as a tile. Let me just end by demonstrating that. Here's translating that tile by a vector. I can take the tile and move it up. I missed. Nope, there it is. I can take the tile and move it left. I can take the tile and I can move it down. I don't know if it hurt to click on down. Alright, sometimes it gets lost, so you have to restart it. Translate by vector, select the thing, select the direction. I feel like I now have multiple copies of that thing sitting here. I do. They've ended up not moving, but so these two copies of it, let's just get rid of them. You can select a thing and hit delete, and that'll get rid of it. Oh, because I'm trying to select it using the move tool. That's silly of me. I was just telling you guys, make sure you're holding the right tool. We want to hit the select tool, the move or select thing. That's selecting the object. That's deleting it. Oh no, look at all those points. I really don't want to see all those points. It would be awesome if there was a way to select a whole region and delete everything in it, but I don't think there is. So we may have to, you know, might it be smarter to use the undo thing. I'm going to try a bunch of undos, see how it works for us. There's a. You got to take a little time between these undos, or it will get lost. That was an undo the groove graphics move. Another graphics move. That's moving the object off of itself. Okay. Maybe I can undo the creation of that object. That looked weird. Let's try moving something there now and see if it... Oh, perfect. So when I move that one now, or try to move that one now, it's moving the others along with it. That wasn't a graphics move, that was a moving the object, and the guys that depend on it just move along. Right, so let me try that one last time to get a translation that's down below. We want this guy translated by that vector. There it is. One more, let's get one to the right. This guy. There it is, cool. Now another piece that's fun to play with is to make your thing more visually interesting. I think we can turn off these vectors now, so I don't want to necessarily see the vector arrows. There we are. And where's V? Why is V still there? That's V double prime. So, and I've also got the original square that's visible. I kind of don't want those either, or that either. Where did that come from? That's weird. It's actually... Oh, I know why. It's because the polygon has been made invisible, but the edges that are associated with it are still here. Well, I may never figure out where those edges are, so here's a great trick to know about. If you've got a thing in the graphics view, you can select it by just clicking on it. Make sure you've got the move tool highlighted and click on that thing. There it is, and I can turn it off. Click on that thing here, turn it off. I'm sorry, this view of the thing was kind of compressed, so there it is, a little bit bigger. Here's that thing. Just turn off the showing of it. I thought I had already made this invisible, but there it is again. Alright. Lastly, we could take our things, which no longer look quite as much as like the Grinch to me, but whatever, and we can select them and change what color they are, which is fun to try. This one green, perhaps? Orange. And you can fill in as many colors as you want. Now, the original Grinch hat is this green one in the middle, so if I want to change things, I can make those changes here. Oops, accidentally double-clicked on it. But if I try to move one of these things, it's just not going to go. Right? You have to remember the things that you can move and the other things that you can't. Oh, I kind of like that look. Now it no longer looks like a Grinch. Wow, what did I do? Put that back. Wow. So I hope this has helped a little bit to make you at ease with using GeoGebra. I guess I meant to make these notes over here, and then I didn't make them. So let's go back and think about a few of the things that I was going to say. One thing is learn about the main menu. That's in the upper right corner. Make sure you got your login name right. That's your email. If you use, like a lot of people do, use Google to save your passwords for things. If you use Chrome, you do. Most people do that. Watch out. I think it tends to get the that login name mistaken. And then you end up resetting your password dozens of times, and there's no real... Okay, I don't know why my monitor's thing just came up. I can't... Hopefully that's not appearing to you. Anyway, what else did we know? Think about the ability to select things from by their type over here. There's also the ability to select things by the order that they were created, which is pretty interesting. If you click on this menu, I use the object type thing, but you can do it by the construction order. You can also do things based on dependencies. If some point depends on another point, that'll show up. So it's useful to try to play with all of these things. And I think that is probably good for today. Are there any other notes I wanted to give you? Oh, there is actually one thing. I want to point out, when you are finished with, making a nice looking thing, make sure to save it. I probably don't want to call it Untitled, as you end up with 900 things called Untitled. Let's call it Grinch, even though it no longer quite looks like a Grinch. There's another option under here, which is to share. Right? I guess that'll automatically share it with somebody, but you can get a link for the thing right there, and just hit copy, and now it's in your paste bar. You can come over and send me an email and hit Control V, or look at the edit menu and hit paste, and you'll send me the link to that. So that's the easiest way to let me see what your project is. Send me an email with a link to it on GeoGebra. Okay, I think we're good. We got making sure you log into GeoGebra Classic, knowing where and what to do on the main menu, making sure your login name is done, and I talked briefly about sharing. So I'll see you tomorrow.